Story 4: The Elevator That Opened on the Wrong Floor. Hospitals never really sleep. Even after midnight, elevators move constantly, carrying doctors, nurses, patients, and supplies between floors. But in one hospital, there was one elevator nobody liked using alone. A medical intern named Rebecca learned why during her third week on the job. She had just finished checking blood work in the emergency department and was heading up to the 6th floor. She stepped into the elevator, pressed 6, and leaned back against the wall, exhausted. The doors closed. The elevator began to rise. Then suddenly, it stopped. The doors opened onto the 4th floor. But there was a problem. The 4th floor had been permanently closed for months due to fire damage and renovation. No patients, no staff, no lights, just darkness. Rebecca stared out into the pitch-black hallway. No movement, no sound. She reached for the door close button, and that's when she saw it. At the far end of the hallway, a figure was standing perfectly still. Tall, thin, wearing what looked like a hospital gown. She couldn't see the face, just the outline. The figure didn't move. It didn't walk. It didn't blink. It just stood there in the dark, facing the elevator. Rebecca slammed the close button over and over. The doors began to shut, then suddenly stopped, as if something had interrupted the sensor. For one horrible second, the doors slid back open again. The hallway was still there. The darkness was still there. But now, the figure was closer, much closer. Rebecca screamed and hit every button she could. The doors finally shut and the elevator jolted upward. When she reached the 6th floor, she ran straight to the nurse's station in tears. An older orderly listened quietly, then said something that chilled everyone in the room. A psychiatric patient had died in a fire on the 4th floor years before, and according to night staff, that elevator still sometimes opened there on its own, usually around 3 a.m., usually when someone was alone. Story 5: The Voice on the Intercom. The final story may be the most unsettling of all, because it involved something everyone in the hospital heard. This happened during a winter storm when a regional hospital was operating on backup power. The weather outside was violent. Rain hammered the windows, wind howled through the emergency entrance, and inside, the building felt strangely cut off from the world. At around 2:57 a.m., several nurses in different departments heard the overhead intercom crackle to life. At first, they assumed it was security or administration making an emergency announcement. Instead, they heard a voice, a woman's voice, soft, calm, almost whispering. She said, "Can someone help me, please?" Then silence. The nurses froze. One of them picked up the desk phone and called security. But before anyone could respond, the intercom came on again. Same voice, this time louder. "I'm still waiting." Security immediately began checking every floor. No patient had used an emergency phone, no staff member had touched the intercom system, and according to the tech department, the overhead announcement panel had been offline for nearly an hour due to the storm. But the strangest detail came later. A retired nurse who heard about the incident asked one question: "Did it sound like a young woman?" When they said yes, she looked visibly shaken. Years ago, a woman died alone in recovery after repeatedly pressing for help during a staffing shortage. By the time someone reached her, it was too late. And ever since then, staff had occasionally reported hearing a woman's voice in the building late at night, always saying almost the same thing: always asking for help, as if she still didn't know that nobody was coming. Hospitals are filled with emotion, fear, pain, hope, loss. And maybe that's why some places seem to hold on to more than memories. Maybe certain moments never really end. Maybe certain people never really leave. Or maybe when the hallways go quiet and the monitors begin to beep in empty rooms, we're hearing the part of the hospital that most people were never meant to see. So if you ever find yourself walking alone through a silent corridor after midnight and you hear footsteps behind you, whatever you do, don't turn around. If you want more true-style horror stories like this, follow the page and stay out of the hospital after dark.